Good morning.
Start, before I turn it over to Deputy Mayor and Board Chair Julian Person. I just want to remind everyone that we'll be, as always, live streaming on YouTube.
Meeting of the Board of Directors of Brooklyn Bridge Park Corporation hereby called to order. I asked Amy Lojek, Secretary of the Corporation, to confirm that there is a quorum for today's. Great. I would like to welcome the board members, Eric and the rest of the BBC staff. I would also like to welcome and thank members of the public for joining us. Following the agenda items, we will hear any comments from members of the public. Speakers, please complete the speaker registration card that can be found at the table where you signed in. When formulating your comments, please note that our policy is to limit speakers to 1 2-minute turn per speaker. Please be respectful of this limit so that as many people as possible have a chance to speak. Let's now get started with the voting items for today's. The first agenda item is adoption of the minutes of the October 15, 2025 Board of Directors. Bookmarked in your board book as item 1. A draft of the proposed minutes is circulated to the directors prior to today's meeting, along with the materials for all items to be considered today. Do any directors have questions, changes, or corrections to the proposed minutes? No? I now request a motion to approve the minutes of the October 15th, 2025 Board of Directors meeting.
So.
Motion is approved. Yeah.
Objection.
Oh. Okay. All in favor? Great. Motion is approved. Second agenda item. The second agenda item is the president's report, a non-voting item, again bookmarked as item 2. I will now ask Eric to present the president's report.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to all the board members for being here. We have water bottles, new BBP water bottles for all of you today. Want to just kind of quickly go through what's been happening and kind of what's on the docket moving forward. Let me start with obviously the last several weeks. We've had a lot of snow, and with that has come lots of joy in the park. And has also come, obviously, a tremendous amount of work from our team, specifically our operations team, who have spent much of the last month really moving snow, removing ice, breaking up ice. I want to really thank the entire ops staff and call out specifically the leadership of our Chief Operating Officer, Jeff Sangrund, our VP of Capital Projects, Lindsay Ross, and the entire operations team. They really did incredible. Also, since we last met, you may remember the last board meeting, we approved a capital project to completely replace the boardwalk at Empire Fulton Ferry outside of Jane's Carousel. I want to congratulate Lindsay and her team, John specifically, for all of his work. Seeing this project, you can see sort of the before and after. And now that the snow is finally melted, you can actually really see the after. So I definitely out there, I encourage you. It's fantastic. This winter also obviously saw the return of the Roebling Rink at Emily Warren Roebling Plaza. We had about 35,000 skaters this season. The rink was open from just before Thanksgiving till the very beginning of February. Some other photos, some nice skating. People really love the ice. We are going to have a deep dive with our operator in the next week or so to really talk about the finances and the numbers, and then we'll be reporting back to all of you. And there's going to be some decisions to make about it if we continue to move forward, and how we continue to move forward as we do end up spending more than we bring in revenue. And a large piece of that is because we have tried to keep the cost so low. On average, we are, if not the cheapest, one of the cheapest rings. Moving forward to the spring and what's coming, obviously all of our concessions are going to open this spring, and we're excited about it. You'll remember that we just, following an RFP process this fall, we just re-upped with Fornino at Pier 6, and Fornino is completely redoing the ground floor space and to turn that into a space where you would actually want to be, as opposed to what it had been, just sort of a get out of the rain space. So we're very excited about that. They're doing a whole with us an HVAC system. It's gonna be really fantastic. All of our other concessions will be open now. Also with the spring, brings a return of programming, and now since the combining of staffs from the Conservancy to the corporation, now programming is part of our core mission, providing hundreds and hundreds of free programming to thousands and thousands of people. And so with that, this year certainly will bring back a lot of park favorites, from Kite Fest and Harvest Fest to Movies with a View, yoga, fitness classes, kayak programs, as well as some signature partner events like Photoville will be back. And then sort of two big things that are likely to happen. This year is both the 50th anniversary of the Macy's fireworks, as well as the 250th anniversary of July 4th. There are still in planning lots of July 4th activities, but I think it's fair to believe that there will be fireworks down here in the East River off the park, as we've had certainly last year and in previous years, as well as we're in conversations with an entity known as Sail Forth, which is trying to bring the tall ships back to New York City and dock them along, not just the piers, but elsewhere in the city. There will be a naval parade of ships in the East River at some point during the stretch that is probably from a few days prior to July 4th to a few days after. So more to come on that as more details are still being coordinated. The same is true with the World Cup. As the World Cup comes to the United States and specifically to MetLife Stadium, there's lots of talk of activations for World Cup. I believe there's an activation happening at the U.S. Tennis Center in Flushing. We are also in long conversations with FIFA World Cup and Adidas about an activation in Brooklyn Bridge Park. Probably, again, specifics still be determined, but probably in the Emily Warren Rolling Plaza. Probably for a month, mid-June to mid-July, completely free, open to everyone, free screenings, other activations, potentially some points of sales like merch and food, but to enter the event and participate in the event, 100% free. And with that, also, I wanted to introduce everyone to Rachel Karp. Rachel is our first ever Chief Programming Officer, a person that we brought on post the combining with Conservancy. Right here behind me. Rachel joins us most recently from Paramount and the New York Times, but has spent a long career producing theater and other live experiences and great programming. As our first Chief Programming Officer, she is overseeing not only all of the programs that we will provide, but also coordinating and ensuring coordination with all of the programs that we host. So things like World Cup and ensuring that there's great connectivity between them, potential wraparound programming. If you think about Public Art Fund, for example, every year has an installation here at the opportunity to do that. So I'm thrilled that Rachel has joined our team, and she looks, I'm sure she looks forward to work with all of this.
Welcome.
There you go. That then brings me to a project that we have some agenda items related to, but not the specific project at today's meeting, which is the renovation of this building. As you know, we will be completely renovating this building and moving our education center into this building, which is a significant increase in space. The education center, the goal of this is to welcome more students, be a public-facing building. Currently, we do an open hours, free open to everyone, as well as school programs. 75% of the school programs we provide are Title I schools. The expansion into this building, which will significantly expand the amount of space available for free public education programming, will increase the offering that we can provide by about 70%. So we'll be completely redoing the ground floor. Our offices are currently on the ground floor. Our offices will be moving up to floors 2 and 3, which obviously also need to be renovated. As you know, those spaces have no HVAC, no working bathrooms, not really usable conditions, no ADA accessibility. The project that we are nearing completion of the design on will accomplish all of that. We are about to put an RFP out onto the streets for general contract services for that project, and expect to bring a contractor to the board at the June board meeting for approval, which is when we will begin construction. As part of this, and an item that we'll be voting on today, is we will need to relocate the staff out of the building when construction begins in June. And we'll talk about it in just a few minutes. We do have a lease that the board needs to authorize us entering into, not from a dollar amount, but just from a lease perspective, for space in Dumbo. We're close to 2 trees. But I wanted to share a couple of quick images just to give you a sense, couple of renderings. This is obviously a rendering of the external of the building. I want to highlight a couple of things. One is the large windows that we will be opening currently, as you know, and as you can see from the current photos, those windows are all blocked up. And so really opening up light into the building, and a relocation of the entrance. Currently, the entrance is on Furman and Drollman on that corner. We're going to relocate the entrance to the other side of the building, still on Drollman. But we believe that is a significant improvement both for safety as well as for parking integration. Rendering of what the lobby will look like. So again, this ground floor, sort of public facing, when people come in for education programs. Want to highlight the staircase that will go all the way up through the entire building. This is a rendering of what one of our education classrooms would look like. And then the upper two floors, just to give you a general sense where our, we'll have a nice room for board meetings and other public meetings, community groups. And I believe that is the last slide, Shira. Thank you. So with that, let me pause if there are any questions about any of that or anything else that I haven't talked about yet.
First, I want to welcome our chair. I know that you have a ridiculously large, very, shall I say, challenging portfolio. I hope fun as your predecessors had, that this is part of fun. Excellent, excellent. So welcome. And then Eric, rec center, what's happening? Any progress?
Thank you. Just taking a quick step back, as you will all remember that, we have this vision for doing a free public rec center with a free public indoor swimming pool under the Manhattan Bridge section of the park, which is a challenge section, obviously, because of items falling off the bridge, and therefore that area is currently being closed with the exception of just sort of pass through. There's no activation, no recreation of any kind in that area right now. And so the idea that we came up with was to build a building that would provide overhead protection and significant amenity and utilization. That required a waiver from the federal government because it's protected under the Land Water Conservation Fund Act, requiring it to be outdoor recreation. Right before the government shut down in October, literally hours before the shutdown, we received a waiver from the National Park Service. So that gives us the legal authority to build a rec center, which is really exciting. So we have just started the conversations, obviously, with the deputy mayor about that. But there's a lot that's happening right now, which you may have seen in the public conversation about rec centers, that the administration is, if I may, that the administration has really given a strong statement that rec centers are really, really important. They just opened, the Parks Department just opened the Shirley Chisholm Rec Center. Congratulations, Commissioner, in Brooklyn. $140, $180 million.
147.
147.
Yes, record time. And it's been a dream for like 15 years. So. Amazing, absolutely.
And then in addition, so the Center for Future actually just put out a report earlier this week that talked about the need for, the report is entitled Putting the Rec Back in Recreation, and sort of the need for increased recreation, both from a facility perspective and a program perspective. One of the things the report talks about is how nonprofits that provide free public programming don't have places to do that because of either aging or lacking infrastructure. And so we think that there is really an opportunity to align with a movement that is happening right now and move forward on our rec center vision. There's a lot that needs to happen, including obviously there's community engagement, there's public design and planning, and then there is a need for some funding. In our model, we estimate currently probably somewhere of magnitude of $20 to $30 million that we do have available for this project. But we also estimate that the project's probably about $70 to $80 million based on where we're putting it and how we're building it, Marty. There was also a New York Times article earlier this week where the Parks Commissioner said that she was doubling down on the need for rec center. So I think there's a moment here, and I hope that we can take advantage of that moment. And really, in order to do so, really we'll need everyone in this room's help.
While we're talking about Longford Greens, the original illustrative master plan, when we put it out in 2000 for this park, had a rec center at the end of Pier 5. Which was physically impossible. because the pier would never even went fixed, we never hold the weight. So this has been, you know, a long time coming. Good luck.
Thank you. Well, like I said, gonna need help.
After we do our tour, I'm happy to extend that tour to the board of the Shirley.
That's great, yeah.
It's amazing, amazing facility.
We're gonna go look, but yeah, it'd be great to schedule a board field trip.
We can even do lunch in the teaching kitchen. I'll teach you how to make penne alla vodka.
Alright, now you're. If nothing else, thank you very, very much.
All right. The third agenda item is the authorization to enter into the lease temporary office space. This is bookmarked as item 3. I ask Joel Bermejo, BBT's Deputy General Counsel. That's
Good morning, Director. I'm just gonna stand right here and still. So as Eric mentioned, we need to account for about 2 years to temporary office space after looking at level spaces around the park. We identified one at 55 Washington Street, so right down there in Dumbo. It is for a 55 Washington LLC. We're taking a suite that is fully furnished. Move in. It will cost approximately $185,000 for base rent. With utilities and other services, it'll cost about $200,000 per year. It'll be for 25 months, starting June 1 of this year, and running through July of.
I ask that Andy Phillips, Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, provide the committee's perspective.
The committee reviewed this and is comfortable.
Great. Any other directors have any questions or comments? If there are no further questions, I request a motion to approve this request.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion is approved. Fourth agenda item is the authorization to enter into an agreement with Gardner and Theobald Incorporated relating to representative services. This is bookmarked as item 4. Ask Lindsay Ross, UVP's Vice President for Capital Projects and Restoration, to present this item.
Morning, Directors. For item 4, we are requesting board authorization to enter into an agreement with Parkwise and the representative system. Since 2006, Gardner and Theobald served as parks owners under a legacy agreement. This past December, we released a new RFP for overdraft services. The procurement process was highly competitive. 15 proposals from firms with significant public experience. Following a thorough review and interviews with 3 finalists, the selection committee recommended 3 locations. Their proposal was the most competitive of the finalists, offering the best overall financial value. Additionally, the firm put out for a strong workforce utilization plan and the team's expertise in city and state square. The directors are hereby requested to authorize BDC to enter into a 3-year agreement with Gardner and Theobald with an option for a 2-year extension for a total contract value of $1,178,100.
And Andy Phillips, Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, provided.
The committee reviewed that and forward and thanks for the very thoughtful art.
Any directors have any questions or comments? All right, there are no further questions. I request a motion to approve this request.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Against? Motion is approved. It's fun, right? The fifth agenda item is the authorization to enter into an agreement with Phoenix Marine Co. Delaware LLC as Drumcon Construction Co. Incorporated relating to marine contracting services, which is bookmarked as item 5. I ask John Dang, DVP's Assistant Project Manager, Capital Project Restoration, to present this item.
For item 5, we are requesting authorization to enter into 2 separate agreements for essential marine infrastructure. The first award package is necessary structural repairs for both the Empire Fulton Ferry work and the Fulton Ferry into a single contract with Human First. This 5-month project includes 68 power repairs, deteriorated concrete restoration, and filling the void for a total contract value of $3,722,580, which is inclusive of 50%. The second proposed agreement is with Tretcon Construction for the removal of the destabilized transfer bridge at Deerfield Beach. This work also includes the removal of exposed sheet piles at Deerfield. This 8-week demolition and site clearance project totals $797,907, also inclusive of the 50%. Both firms were selected through a competitive RFP process issued in December 2025 and were chosen for their demonstrated success within the park and their competitive pricing. The directors are hereby requested to authorize DEP to enter into a contract with Phoenix Marine Company and Trevcon Construction Company.
Andy?
How did the committee review these, was comfortable with it?
The early resolutions, the reference to the resolution, presidents of UBP were their designees, but in this one, the resolution says, it's her designees.
Okay. I wondered.
Should be theirs be confirmed, should never be compared. I just would propose that.
The committee agrees. Yeah, I think I agree with that too.
When I read.
And should we move to not having mosquitoes on support? Not sure.
We will,
That fun.
we will update that.
If there are no further questions, I request a motion to approve this request.
And also, another question, I think that's just for the record.
Yep.
We talked about sort of like the end of station.
Yep.
Sort of, I could personally say sort of like the egregious increase in cost that Phoenix attached to the contract, just to get 20%. So my hope is that we all agree that it was not, that increase in cost was not worth sort of like increase in inflation, but because we focused a lot on the station, I think Phoenix needs to know that they need to figure out a way that if they come to utilize MWBs, how to lower their overhead. Like it's almost like if you want us to use MWBs, we're gonna make it so expensive that you don't choose to use MWBs. That's how it went to me, and so
yeah,
they just need to know that we, or at least a lot of us on the board, saw that. We obviously understand sort of the unique nature of maritime.
Yep.
That's why we need more rent centers in urban areas, but that's a whole other story. But we certainly would want us to send a message to Phoenix that the board was not necessarily, if I could sort
I
of
think
stay.
that's a fair.
Yes.
Reflection of
yes.
our conversation.
Yes, stay.
Greg, I woke up thinking about the same thing, that, you know, with making these contests inaccessible to
Right.
MWBs is not acceptable, right? And because it is inaccessible, I think we definitely should move forward in this way. But I was thinking about how to bridge that, and that is the purpose of it, is that there should be some communication, because, you know, we know this work, having knows what's wrong, not around, but we need to be able to make it, especially when we have contracts of this matter.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you saying that, because I was literally, I was going to talk to my husband about that this morning.
so completely agree, and maybe I can take a step back and, you know, for those that are not part of the audit finance committee. And that was absolutely the sense of the committee. So first of all, taking a step back, we put out the RFP for this work. As you know, for previous maritime contracts, there are not a lot of MWB players in the field. There are a couple that we have worked with in the past, and we went to them proactively as part of the RFP process and said, we have this project out. They declined to bid. The MWB primes that are in this field did decline to bid because they have too much other work going on right now. What we then subsequently learned throughout this process is that on public jobs specifically, there is an understanding that people are trying to get MWB firms. And so those MWB numbers are also increasing as a result, especially on the sub side, as a result of knowing that these are public jobs and that MWBs are a priority. And when Phoenix proposed and their bid was what you have in front of you, we went back to them and we said, we really, you know, we try to hit a 30% MWB on all of our projects. On maritime, we often have a goal of about 20%, again, knowing what the market is, and for maritime specifically. We went back to them, we said, your number's 7.5. They said, well, we can get it to 20. There's not a lot of work in this project that's not part of our self-performed. There's not a lot that we can sub out. The one thing that they identified that they could sub out had to do with they could bring in a firm that would do some of the physical labor, but didn't have the infrastructure needed to do the job, like the barges or some of the other equipment that Phoenix would still have to provide, which is part of why the number increase was so dramatic. So to get from 7.5% to 20%, it was another $400,000 on top of the 3.7. And part of the reason why that cost was so great was because they had to provide the needed infrastructure like the barges. The profit margin on that is only 5%. But completely hear you. And it is a conversation that we started with putting this RFP out and saying, we want to get an MWB firm. One of the things that we're going to do, that we'll present probably at the committee level, but convene all of the committees to do this, is do a presentation of our entire MWBE portfolio on all of our projects, which tells Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a 30 to 40% MWB utilization across all of our capital projects. But yes, we absolutely have that conversation with PXN.
I would also add to it, is there a way to get out, given that what we know about right, that these are sort of regular compromises.
Yes. Yes.
Is there a way to get more out in front of it so that we are getting the MWBE primes, because we're not saying what needs to be done now, we're saying we want to sign up for not summer 2026, but summer 2027. And that might be a way also.
They can build it into their pipeline model.
Yeah. Which is also, by the way, wearing my day job hat where we're about growing businesses, being able to see revenue further out is gold to grow. And so it would be good for us and be able to you to know more.
That's great.
Revenue going out. And again, the likelihood that we don't need maritime repair.
People always.
It's just.
I enjoy all the comments of, I don't.
Can I just ask a little bit more information about the number of other respondents and just about the nature of the RFP? We're selecting two different firms. Did they come in together?
No, so we
things that
we issued one RFP that in effect had 3 projects. So it's pile repair work at 2 locations, and then it's the removal of the bridge. But in the RFP, we said that we asked people to bid on each individual section, making the point that we might break up the projects into multiple contracts as opposed to awarding to one contractor. We work with Phoenix a lot because Phoenix is one of the big players in the maritime industry and is one of the more affordable players in the maritime industry. We felt strongly that there was great value in breaking up this into 2 specific contracts for 2 main reasons. One was it allows for great scheduling coordination, right? If Phoenix is doing the pile repair work, if Trevcon is doing the work at Pier 4, we can do those jobs at the same time as opposed to having to wait and we get the transfer bridge removed, which is destabilized, sooner. The other thing is we also wanted to send a message to not only Phoenix, but to the rest of the marketplace that yes, we work with Phoenix a lot, but we are not afraid to contract with another vendor, and wanted to send that message that we are going to contract with other vendors. And so to, I think the larger point, Craig, that you and other members of the board are making is it's a message of these are the things that we care about, and there are a lot of players in this.
granted. I guess just in terms of how many responses we got then?
Yeah.
4 total. 4 total, of which we gave 2.
Yes.
Wait, so each of the bidders could have had both sets of work.
So each bidder bid on everything as what individual pricing for each scope as well as a complete package pricing for each scope.
Did you have a similar sort of back and forth with Trevcon, who I see has a lower percentage?
There's, yes, but there is almost nothing for them to sub out as part of this job. But it is not, as John said, it's a few weeks work. It's not a big job.
there might have been more in the definition on that first. And
So, no, we looked at all of that. We absolutely looked at all of that.
Area we're not defined symptoms, which is hard, right? We know that with the remanufacturing system, like that was impossible. But then 77, it was like amazing success. So I think that it's also, you know, I love. But I think that thinking about going forward, but also thinking about making sure that people know that this is important to us, and I know that you guys can diligence it.
To derail, but this is a pipeline, right? And I think, you know, they have an opportunity, and we've done this in the city where you create a mentorship program, right? And this is like a.
Well, that's what we did at
long-term game.
77, like 77, they had to, it was, this might not be the project for that,
Yeah.
like I said, the green manufacturer was not the project for that.
Right.
But there might be projects down the road.
I went through this
there'll
with,
be a fair amount.
police managers.
So I'm just saying, like, in the region, there'll be a fair amount of pure restoration work coming up.
Yeah.
No, you're right,
Whether
it's
it's
clear.
here-
Right.
Right.
Some of us are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And EDC does work with, developing vendors, especially with maritime vendors.
Yeah.
We are certainly investing in the space and, you know, hoping that we get better and better outcomes.
Josh, there are firms that you are working with that are not currently ones that we have worked with in the past. We'd love to have connections to that. But we obviously put out the RP in the city record and we publicize it widely, and then we also reach out to the entities that we know. But if there are other ones that you are aware of, you're not, please.
Yeah, we'll do that. I was also thinking we can connect offline to make sure that folks who are in the maritime pipeline that we have eyes on, that we make sure that they're in visibility and possible.
Online.
Gregorio, did you put a comment in the chat?
Yeah, he was just thanking you for providing additional context and background.
Thank you, Gregorio.
Thanks, Ron. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I did. So did any other directors have any questions or comments?
We don't need to go with a motion to provide them this message because it's informal, it's just.
We'll provide that.
Thank you for. Great.
There are two contracts. Should we not vote separately on each one?
So on the advice of our general counsel, we can vote on it as one package. However, they are.
I don't say it was first or second.
You do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Alright. If there are no further questions, I request a motion to approve this request.
Second.
I moved twice on this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again? Motion is approved. Okay. Oh.
No.
Do I? do the motion?
First, yes, if anyone. Session.
Do you want one? The final item on the agenda, is that, okay? I want to thank everyone for their time today and ask for a motion to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
All in favor? Against? Motion is approved and today's meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.